Breaking tonight, new fallout from a shocking announcement as the Republican once considered the most promising presidential contender announces he is leaving the race for the White House. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Today, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, who not long ago was considered the favorite to win the GOP nomination, became the second Republican to leave a crowded 2016 field. And on the way out, he delivered a clear message to the rest of the candidates by taking a direct swipe at businessman Donald Trump. Watch.
Sadly, the debate taking place in the Republican Party today is not focused on that optimistic view of America. Instead, it has drifted into personal attacks. To refocus the debate on these types of issues will require leadership. While I was sitting in church yesterday, the pastor's words reminded me that the Bible is full of stories about people who were called to be leaders in unusual ways. Today, I believe that I'm being called to lead by helping to clear the field in this race so that a positive, conservative message can rise to the top of the field. With this in mind, I will suspend my campaign immediately. I encourage other Republican presidential candidates to consider doing the same so that the voters can focus on a limited number of candidates who can offer a positive, conservative alternative to the current frontrunner. This is fundamentally important to the future of the party and, more importantly, to the future of our country.
Well, it was just 2 months ago that Governor Walker appeared poised to do very well in Iowa, the first contest in the nation. His national numbers were near the top two. But after two lackluster debate performances, a new national poll out this morning showed an almost complete collapse of a campaign once expected to challenge the top tier. Joining us now on this and more tonight, presidential contenders Governor Mike Huckabee and Governor Chris Christie, plus Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen and host of MediaBuzz Howard Kurtz. Mark and Howie, we go to you first. Mark, your reaction, you as somebody who helped Governor Walker write a book not long ago and know him fairly well. There was no hint of this. The campaign had been tweeting out updates on his chances in Iowa and the full steam ahead message a couple of hours before, seemingly out of nowhere, he said, "I'm done."
Yeah, you know, I'm shocked, but I'm not surprised. This is the Scott Walker I know. I mean, first of all, I'm just a huge admirer of Scott Walker. As you know, I wrote a book with him, got to know him, got to know his family. I spent a lot of time in Wisconsin, and this is a guy who stood up to 100,000 union protesters and didn't flinch. He's a fundamentally good, compassionate guy. But, you know, he didn't have to get out today. The fact is he could very easily have slimmed down his campaign, focused in on Iowa, waited for a moment to reemerge. John McCain did that with some success in 2007. And, you know, people say he's like a new Tim Pawlenty. If Tim Pawlenty had stayed in the race, he probably would have been the front runner at some point. He did the humble and patriotic thing, which was to step out for the good of the country, for the good of the party, so that the vision that he believes in for the Republican Party, a hopeful, optimistic vision, can emerge and some consensus can come around a candidate who can carry that message in opposition to Donald Trump.
What's amazing, though, and I'll get to the Trump thing in a second, but what's amazing is just in August, he was at 8%. Now, today, he's at less than 1% in the CNN national poll. But in August, he was at 8%. So it wasn't that long, about a month ago, and he was tied for fourth there, Howie. He was tied for fourth. I mean, to say at this point in the race there's no coming back, even in the face of that CNN poll?
Well, Scott Walker, in my view, is a charisma challenge candidate, perfectly competent governor, but kind of a bland and boring guy who had trouble hitting major league pitching. And he found himself competing in a trumped-up environment. So by the end of his campaign, here's a kind of a soft-spoken Midwesterner. He would be shouting at crowds, "I am unintimidated," and even musing about building a wall along the Canadian border. It wasn't really him. He was trying to tap into the anger that propelled Donald Trump to the top of the heap, and it wasn't working.
How about those comments on his way out, Mark? That's two of the GOP field, Rick Perry, well-respected former governor of Texas, and now Governor Scott Walker, on their way out, taking direct aim at Donald Trump. Is it fair?
Oh, I think it's very fair. I think there are a lot of Republicans who are very worried about Donald Trump and the vision he's bringing for the party, which is not a hopeful, optimistic vision. It's not the vision of Reagan. I mean, Scott Walker said in that statement, he stood there on the debate stage at the Reagan Library and realizing this is not the Republican Party that Ronald Reagan built and that Ronald Reagan believed in. He wants a candidate with a hopeful, optimistic vision, and if it wasn't going to be him, he wanted to get out of the way and hopes other people who share that view and who are not doing well will get out of the way, because the only way Donald Trump wins this nomination, he's got now 24% in the CNN poll. That means 76% are for somebody else. The only way Donald Trump wins the nomination if conservatives are hopeful, optimistic conservatives are divided amongst a bunch of different candidates, and he divides and conquers.
But to blame Scott Walker's problems on Donald Trump is a bridge too far, Howie, is it not?
I think so. I watched a series of interviews with Scott Walker. First, he kind of ducked a bunch of questions, and then he blamed the media gotcha game. Partially true, but a candidate has to be able to handle all questions. Then he suddenly seemed indecisive. I mean, this guy, governor of Wisconsin, took 3 different positions on birthright citizenship, an issue pushed by Trump, in 7 days. So it's not all Trump. I've never seen Megyn, a presidential candidate, drop out and then urge others to do so. I think, though, we have to keep this in mind. A lot of these guys in the low single digits, they could keep going. You don't need that much money. You get on the debate stage, but he has a day job. He has a state to run. And I think that by bowing out now with dignity, he avoids a situation where perhaps he becomes a little bit of a laughingstock in the campaign and it hurts him at home.
All right. So
I think it was a wise move.
Who benefits? Mark, I ask you, who benefits? Because let's talk about the latest poll. The CNN poll that came out today shows Trump is still leading the pack at 24%. However, it's a significant fall for him from where he was of, I think, 8 points. Fiorina jumps up from 3% to 15%. Carson falls, I think, 5%. He was at 19. And Walker didn't have many percentages to give. He had less than half of 1%. However, that doesn't mean nobody benefits from him dropping out, Mark. Who does?
Well, I think, first of all, he does have a lot to give in the sense that, first, I think you'll see in subsequent polls that come out that he's probably not at less than 1%. He's probably in the 2, 3, 4%. But he also has donors who are backing him, and he has a great operation in Iowa. So those people, he put together a fantastic operation. He was the leader in Iowa for a long time, and a lot of people came and dedicated themselves to him. There's a lot of candidates who are going to want that infrastructure. So I think there's an opportunity for a lot of people to benefit. I think Marco Rubio probably benefits the most because he's one candidate out there who has this hopeful, optimistic vision of America, and so I think he's going to make a big play for Walker's donors and his infrastructure and his supporters.
We're going to talk about what happened to Trump and Fiorina in that latest poll. Donald Trump has a very different sounding message tonight in the wake of that poll, which we'll discuss next. Guys, thank you both so much.